From the moment we are born, beliefs are imposed on us without our choice. Parents, families, schools, and entire cultures pass down ideas about gods and religions, which slowly become truths in our minds. A child born in Pakistan is almost certain to be raised Muslim. A child in Italy will likely grow up Catholic. A child in India may be Hindu. No child freely chooses the God they believe in. Their faith is determined by geography, culture, and the accident of birth. This alone shows that religious belief is not built on objective evidence, but on circumstance. If a God truly existed, his presence would be universal, just like gravity or sunlight, constant and the same for everyone. Yet belief in gods changes across borders, languages, and traditions. This reveals that gods are not discovered through reason or science, but are taught and passed down as part of cultural identity. Because of this early conditioning, billions of people grow up convinced they hold the ultimate truth, when in reality, they are simply repeating a system of inherited beliefs, absorbed long before they had the chance to think independently.
If we look back through history, we find countless gods once worshipped with absolute devotion. The ancient Egyptians prayed to Ra. The Greeks built temples for Zeus, and the Norse made sacrifices to Odin. In their time, these gods were not seen as myths, but as ultimate truth. Millions lived, fought, and even died in their name. Yet, over time, every one of these gods faded away, surviving only as stories in history and culture. This raises an important question. If ancient gods, once believed in with such certainty, are now dismissed as myths, why assume today's gods are any different? The only real distinction is time. What feels like divine truth today could easily be tomorrow's mythology. This pattern reveals that gods do not represent eternal truth, but rather the needs, fears, and imagination of human beings at specific points in history. Belief in deities does not withstand the test of time because it is not grounded in objective evidence. Instead, it survives through repetition, tradition, and emotional comfort. One of the most common arguments religions present is, our holy book proves that God exists. Yet every religion makes the same claim about its scriptures. The Bible in Christianity, the Quran in Islam, the Vedas in Hinduism, all declare themselves to be divine truth, but they cannot all be correct, since they directly contradict one another. If one is true, the others must be false. This shows that deep belief does not equal truth. Billions may read, believe, and even die for these texts, but passion cannot turn falsehood into reality. If these books had appeared in a different context, detached from religion, they would be regarded no differently than myths or legends. Furthermore, many believers rely on emotions, inner voices, or personal prayer experiences as proof of God's presence. But emotions are not evidence. Followers of every religion feel that their God helps them in times of crisis. The problem is that these feelings conflict with each other, revealing that they stem from human psychology, not from any supernatural being. One of the strongest reasons people cling to religion is the fear of death. No one wants to believe that everything ends when life does. Belief in an afterlife, whether heaven, reincarnation, or eternal paradise, offers comfort and hope. But comfort does not equal truth. A child may believe their lost dog went to heaven to ease the pain, yet that belief does not alter reality. Religions exploit this fear by offering a promise. Death is not the end. They promise eternal rewards for loyalty and threaten eternal punishment for doubt. This is essentially a strategy of control through hope and fear. Yet in reality, there is no evidence for the existence of an immortal soul or a life beyond death. These ideas are based on desire and tradition, not facts. Science, on the other hand, shows that life arises and ends through natural processes. Instead of relying on illusions of another world, we can find meaning in the present through love, connection, creativity, and the legacy we leave behind. One of the most common religious arguments is, the world is too complex. It must have a creator. Believers often point to the human eye, the brain, or the wonders of nature as proof of an intelligent designer. But this is a fallacy from complexity. Science, especially Darwin's theory of evolution, demonstrates that complexity can emerge gradually over billions of years. The eye did not appear fully formed. Fossil records reveal many intermediate stages, from simple light-sensitive spots to today's highly advanced visual organs. Natural selection accumulates small changes that offer survival advantages, leading to the sophistication we now observe. Likewise, phenomena once attributed to divine action, lightning, disease, drought, are now explained by science. Electricity, microbes, climate. The more we learn, the smaller the realm of God becomes. This is known as the God of the gaps phenomenon. When faith rests on gaps in knowledge, every scientific discovery shrinks the space left for gods. The truth is clear. The complexity of nature does not require a supernatural designer. It arises from natural laws and evolution itself. One of the most common claims made by believers is, without God, humans would have no morality. But history and modern societies prove the opposite. First, morality is not the exclusive product of religion. Even communities with no concept of gods developed rules of right and wrong to ensure survival. Morality is the outcome of social evolution. People learned that cooperation, empathy, and fairness stabilize and strengthen communities. Second, if religion were the sole source of morality, why do highly secular countries like Sweden, Norway, and Japan have low crime rates, strong social welfare, and happier citizens? Meanwhile, many deeply religious nations struggle with violence, corruption, and inequality. The evidence shows morality is grounded in law, education, and social consensus, not supernatural belief. Finally, if people are good only because they fear hell, doesn't that imply humans are inherently evil? In reality, most acts of kindness come from compassion and the need for harmony, not fear of punishment. Thus, morality is human in origin, not divinely imposed. Another common religious claim is, only God can give life meaning. But this idea falls apart under closer examination. If the meaning of life comes from a deity, then it is imposed from the outside, not created by us. That reduces humans to obedient subjects rather than free beings. In reality, people find meaning in countless places. In love, in creativity, in raising children, in science, in art, or in the adventure of exploring the world. No God is required to hand out that sense of purpose. Moreover, meaning tied to religion is often fragile. A believer may lose faith when confronted with suffering, war, or injustice. But those who create meaning for themselves continue to find value in life, even when the universe seems indifferent. The truth is, meaning is not a gift from heaven, but the product of choice and action. We are the authors of our own story, And it is precisely this authorship that makes life worth living. One of the greatest challenges to the idea of an all-powerful, loving God is the existence of suffering and natural disasters. If God is truly omnipotent, why not prevent earthquakes, plagues, tsunamis, or childhood cancers? If He is truly benevolent, why allow millions to die in agony? Religion often explains this by saying humans have free will. But this only accounts for human-made evil, not natural suffering. A newborn dying from a disease has nothing to do with free choices. The more we study the universe, the clearer it becomes that it is not designed for human life. Most of it is cold, violent, and deadly. Stars explode. Black holes swallow light, and asteroids can wipe out life in an instant. If a deity designed all this, the design reflects indifference, not love. Thus, the reality of suffering and natural cruelty is not evidence for God. It is evidence that we live in a universe that operates without divine supervision. One of the core problems with religion is its demand for blind faith. Believing without evidence. In many traditions, the less you question and the more you accept, the stronger your faith is considered. Yet this very principle is extremely dangerous. When people accept beliefs without evidence, they leave the door open for any irrational idea to be treated as truth. If one believes that an invisible deity rules the universe simply because a holy book says so, then by the same logic, one could also believe the earth is flat, vaccines are harmful, or conspiracy theories are real. Blind faith rejects critical thinking and makes people vulnerable to manipulation. It can justify violence, fuel division, and even lead to atrocities when extremists enforce their absolute truth on others. A society built on evidence, science, and reason can correct itself and make progress. But a society built on blind faith is trapped in stagnation and danger. Faith without evidence is not a pathway to truth. It is a shortcut to illusion. One of religion's most common arguments is, the universe must have a creator. Everything has a cause, so there must be a first cause. At first, this sounds reasonable, but in reality, it solves nothing. If everything requires a cause, the obvious question is, who created God? If believers claim God just exists without a cause, then by the same logic, the universe, or natural laws, could also just exist. Adding God only complicates the problem. It doesn't answer it. Modern science, through the Big Bang and quantum physics, shows that the universe could emerge from natural conditions we are only beginning to understand. No supernatural assumption is necessary. While much remains unknown, honest ignorance is better than false certainty. Invoking God doesn't explain the mystery. It simply pushes the question back one step further. Instead of stopping at "God did it," we can keep searching, letting the universe reveal its story through evidence and discovery. When we look at the universe, many claim it is fine-tuned for life. In reality, over 99.999% of it is completely uninhabitable. It is mostly empty space, deadly radiation, exploding stars, black holes, and barren planets. Earth is just a tiny, lucky speck in a hostile cosmos. Even here, life is fragile, plagued by disasters, disease, famine, and death. A universe supposedly designed by love would not waste billions of galaxies nor allow such constant suffering. This doesn't look like a perfect design. It looks like the outcome of blind, natural processes where life survives only in rare, favorable niches. Religion promises comfort, order, and purpose, but when examined, it rests on tradition, fear, and blind faith rather than evidence. Belief does not make something true. We do not need God for meaning, morality, or hope. Meaning comes from love, creativity, knowledge, and compassion. Morality arises from empathy and cooperation, not threats of hell or promises of heaven. By rejecting easy answers, we face a stronger reality. The universe doesn't need gods to exist, and humans don't need gods to live meaningful, moral, and fulfilling lives.